So I was thrilled to be in New York. And I just, every day I felt so, I didn't have any money when I first started working. I was getting $30 a week, which was what people who didn't have a profession were getting paid at the time. And I lived with my friends and we cooked together, so it wasn't that hard until I got married. After I got married and my children were teenagers and they were in school, they could get along without me, I decided to go to college. And I applied to a city college and I was accepted. And I started going to college part-time at first, and I worked in the college library for a while. And at first I said, oh, I'll just take 30 credits and maybe I'll become a school secretary. And then I decided, no, I like it too much. I have to get my degree. And I found it pretty easy. And I was an English literature major, so I loved it. I just loved it. And I was able to do everything at the time. I was able to work in the college library and go to school and cook dinner when I came home and read my books that I had to read for school and read the newspaper. And I just, it was great. And after I graduated from this undergraduate college, I decided I wanted to be a school librarian, probably because I was working in the college library, and I was cataloging. And the head cataloger, who was Korean, encouraged me very much. He said, you're so good, because the other women there were catalogers with a degree, and I was doing the same thing they were doing. So he said, you have to go to library school. So I applied to Columbia University, which is one of the best colleges in New York and in the country, I guess. And I got into library school, and I stayed another year, and I got my degree. And after that, I worked in school libraries. So whether I started writing, that's the answer to your question. I started writing something about that time when I was taking a writing course in college. And then it wasn't the writing course, I felt that there were so many stories that I wanted to tell, especially my mother's death, which you didn't read yet, which made a tremendous impression on me, because I felt so helpless. I didn't know what to do. She was, one day I woke up and she was dying, and I knew I had to do something about her. I had to get a doctor. And I remembered that I went to high school in the ghetto for 1 year, and there was a girl whose father was a doctor, and they lived nearby, very close. So I ran over there and I knocked on the door and I said, I need a doctor, I have to. My mother is very sick, she's dying. And I guess it was his wife. She said, wait a minute, and he came out and he said, do you have any money? And I said, yes. And he said, show me. And I said, my money is at home. So he said, you go back and bring the money, and then I'll go with you. So I ran back and I brought some money, and by the time he went with me, my mother was dead. So he looked at her and he took her pulse and he said, I'm sorry, she's dead. So that was the end of that. And I felt that this story in particular, I was so, I just couldn't forget his treatment, but this was the ghetto. Everybody was tough. So I started writing, and I think that was the first thing I wrote. And then when I finally decided I'll write, I started writing with the beginning, just a month before the war, when there were rumors of the war already in Lodz, and people knew that it's going to happen sooner or later. And then, of course, it did one night, and the Germans came. In one night, they were there.